Hello everyone, Mark here. When we think about Japanese anime, words like fantasy, magic, sci-fi often comes to mind. And for sure, we're not short of amazing series that are packed with action, drama, and adventures, but sometimes when I come home from work, I'm just exhausted body and soul. So to ask my brain to enter a fantastical world and challenge it to follow elaborate storylines can sometimes be a bit too much. So today I'm going to introduce a new genre of anime, Iyashike, the slice of life stories that are healing and therapeutic, which may not be as exciting or well known as some of the other genres that we're more familiar with, but nevertheless something we can enjoy after a particularly gruesome day. My roommate is a cat. Dogyojin wa hita, doki doki atame no ue. Literally, my housemate is on my lap, but sometimes on my head. Our protagonist Subaru is a mystery writer who lost his parents in a car accident 3 years ago. He lives alone and is practically a social hermit until one day he comes across an equally lonely stray cat, Haru, and takes her home, marking a new beginning for the both of them as they live as roommates. I stress again that they're roommates because, like every relationship between pet and owner, both believe that they're the master of the other. Subaru adopts Haru because she becomes a source of inspiration after he suffers from writer's block, whilst Haru believes that Subaru is too weak and thus needs a proper guardian. Truth is, neither of them are very good at looking after each other, but the small blunders are cute and endearing. Subaru has been refusing to properly grieve over the sudden death of his parents, and is reluctant to engage with the people around him, so Haru becomes a trigger, a reason for him to finally step out of his home and to see that he is loved and valued by the people around him. Haru, on the other hand, is also grieving after she becomes separated from her two younger siblings. Through every clumsy act of care and love, Subaru and Haru slowly come to understand each other. It may be free and convenient to be alone, but Subaru and Haru remind us that we all need somebody, to lean on and to be leaned on, to love and be loved, even if it's just to have someone pat on our heads to say, "Igo." I think a lot of us can see ourselves in Subaru, who is terrified of small talks, prefers internet shopping, and hates people who spoil book endings. And I mean, this is literally what I look like after I spend a day at my relatives' homes. But because, unlike a lot of us, he makes his discomfort and disapproval of people obviously apparent, he could have easily been seen as arrogant, rude, and very unlikable. So I think the writers did a really good job to include little details that capture Subaru as a flawed but relatable, and most importantly, forgivable character. Like, even though he's always complaining about uninvited guests, he still keeps his side door unlocked at all times, so that if his childhood friend Hiroto ever comes around when he's not home, Hiroto can still let himself in without a key. Another thing I liked about the series is, of course, our super cute and lovable Haru, who initially thinks that her name means Gohan, so every time that she hears her name, this happens. Each episode is split into 2 parts, and we get to see the same event twice, once through Subaru and once again through Haru. Nothing really happens in the story. There's no real drama, no monsters or magic, just everyday tidbits, things that could happen to any of us. This could be a turn-off for people who aren't used to this kind of genre, but there's a weird charm to it, and it made me feel all fuzzy and wholesome, just very healing after a tiring day at work with people that I don't like very much. It's short, sweet, fast-paced, easy to follow, and with only 12 episodes, I binged the whole thing in one sitting. So if you're ever feeling down and a bit fed up, I would definitely recommend giving this a go. Through Subaru and Haru, we're reminded that every small act of kindness is evidence of a loving heart. It could be the friend who looks into your window to check that you're okay on their way to work. It could be the pet shop owner who approaches you because they could tell that you're struggling. It could be the neighbour who helps water the garden plants. These are all small but concrete proof that the world doesn't suck as much as it may seem.
僕だけの世界に別の誰かの世界が流れ込み、ゆっくり広がってゆく。戸惑いは大きいけれど、少しずつ。
Natsume's Book of Friends, Natsume Yojojin. Natsume's Book of Friends has a similar start to My Roommate as a Cat, but with a sprinkle of magic and monsters. Our protagonist, Natsume Takashi, is an orphan teenager who's been tossed around like a ball from relative to relative since a very young age. For as long as he could remember, he's had the ability to see yokai, spirits or monsters, which understandably hasn't made life very easy for him. When he moves in with another set of relatives in his grandmother's hometown, he finds himself chased by an unusually high number of yokai, who all mistake him for his grandmother Reiko due to their similar scent. This is when he runs into Madara, a high-level yokai that looks like a maneki neko. Madara, aka Nyanko-sensei, tells him that the yokai are after him because of Reiko's Book of Friends, a book that contains the names of yokai Reiko had defeated in the past. Possession of the book means control and ownership of the yokai, whose names are listed in the book, so many yokai, both good and bad, are seeking to have their names returned to them now that Reiko is dead. The series is essentially episodic stories that show how Natsume returns the names written in the book back to their owners, and through meeting different weird and wonderful yokai, Natsume learns to accept this somewhat inconvenient ability and reconciles with his troublesome childhood. And because the stories are self-contained and pretty much concludes with every episode, it's one of those shows that I can sink into for 20 minutes and then move on with a smile on the outside and a fuzzy feeling on the inside. Like a good cup of tea that will get me going on a rough morning, but not necessarily something I'd want to be drinking on a Saturday night. Without a main arc to push the plot along, the show could feel repetitive with the same formula of meet a new yokai, learn their stories, resolve their problems, return their names, happy ending. It's one of those shows that I can guess the ending from just the start, but I still want to see the journey and enjoy the ride with Natsume and Nyanko-sensei. This is because every yokai in their stories are so distinct and memorable that it feels almost refreshing every time I watch Natsume scratch his head for a solution to the yokai's unique problems. Natsume as a protagonist is also particularly effective. Unlike many anime heroes, Natsume isn't a brooding teenager who feels sorry for himself, nor is he a super altruistic Gryffindor who's ready to save the world. In fact, he feels like he could be any one of us, someone who keeps to himself and couldn't care less about somebody else's problems. But when it really comes down to it, he'll offer a hand and help out if it's within his own abilities. There's no real story arc in seasons 1 and 2, but that slowly changes from season 3 onwards, where sometimes stories would run over 2 episodes instead of 1 as Natsume's world slowly expands. The art style also improves a lot from season 3, as you can really see the signs of a low budget in seasons 1 and 2, but even then, the character designs are distinct enough for every yokai to stand out and be remembered. Like the Spire Spirit with her blue yukata, and the little fox spirit with a bowed hat. Just small details that I can remember even after so many years, which help bring them and their stories to life. Season 1 came out in 2008, and having rewatched that season again recently, I have to say that it totally holds up. The characters are still charming and cute, and I was surprised at how the show can still grip my feelings even now that I'm an adult.
これでいいんだ。花さんと一緒に行ける。
Basically, go watch it!
今ならわかる。会いたい人がいれば、きっと、もう一人じゃないこと。
Laid-back camp, Yuru camp. The topic of camping is fairly unusual amongst anime, and it's even more interesting that the writers decided to explore this topic with a bunch of high school girls. Personally, I think it's refreshing enough just to see a Japanese anime that star a group of cute girls and they're not fighting crime or monsters in ultra miniskirts. Having said that, you've still got the obvious setup with the ensemble cast. You've got the timid bookworm, the cheerful Genki girl, the loyal friend, the know-it-all, etc, etc, but they've all got a level of depth and some aspect of realism to them. This is probably because some of the problems that these girls face are actually very realistic, and likely familiar to anyone who loves camping. In case you didn't know, camping is a surprisingly and stupidly expensive activity. The show makes this clear from the start, whilst giving out a lot of useful and practical information for camping newbies, things that I wish I knew when I first started camping. So it's very easy to dive into the show even if you know nothing about camping. So it's super relatable when I see the girls stressing about the cost of camping and trying to save money where possible, choosing to put on extra layers rather than setting up a campfire, because believe it or not, firewood is also expensive, sleeping in the car when you don't have a tent, or buying a super cheap tent that takes 10 times the skills to set up compared to a more expensive one. It's also funny watching the girls trying out ways to upgrade and enhance their camping gear so that they can save as much money as possible, whilst also making sure that they don't die of hypothermia. Unlike Tsubaru or Natsume, Our protagonist, Lin, isn't necessarily a lonely, antisocial person, but rather, I think she just enjoys the occasional alone time to sit in silence and think about life. I like that the show doesn't advocate being alone as a problem, because I do feel that being shy or introverted, or even just having the preference of being alone, is often portrayed as a negative trait. Dean isn't forced to join the outdoor activities club, and I agree with the girls when they say that she's not unfriendly, she just prefers to camp alone. So it's great when Nadeshiko doesn't lecture Lin about making friends or camping in a group, and simply respects her preference and leaves her to go camping alone. I'm sure that this would be super relatable to introverts who are always told to come out of their shells and to engage more with other people, which I feel is fine, but to a certain extent, and only if the introvert is comfortable doing so. Because by saying these things to introverts, the society is essentially saying that extroverts are the norm, that shyness is abnormal, which as an introvert myself, I totally disagree with. By showing different types of camping, doing it with friends or solo, and highlighting the pros and cons of both choices, I do feel that the show is also making a statement about introverts and extroverts. There's no right answer, it's just a matter of preference. I also wanted to highlight the soundtrack, which is also super pretty and therapeutic, like something I'd put on in the background when studying. The artwork is modern and well done, but not to my personal taste, simply because I don't think that the animation and the background blended in together very well. Having said that, the series does capture the beauty of the wonderful landscapes of Japan, especially the various mountains and highlands that definitely gave me the urge to travel and camp in all the places that appeared in the series. Again, curse you, COVID! Yuru Camp currently has 2 seasons and they're both free with English subs on YouTube. In summary, it's another healing series to add to your list, and the girls almost serve as proxy for us now that COVID has made travelling so hard. As with Natsume, it's not something I'd recommend binging, but maybe something to put on when you're having dinner and just want something cute and cozy to go with a quiet meal.
綺麗だね。綺麗だね。
And that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. See you next time. 我々は森下よ。その名を覚えて。